Have you ever heard of blue lightning? It's pretty wild stuff. Turns out, high above those thunderstorms we're used to, there are these crazy blue flashes happening. So we're going to deep dive into some brand new research today, straight from the University of Science and Technology of China, to figure out what's going on up there. It's like a detective story. But instead of a magnifying glass, we've got science. So these blue flashes, they're linked to something scientists call narrow bipolar events, or NBEs for short. Now imagine a burst of energy, so fast that makes a blink of an eye look slow. That's an NBE. We're talking microseconds, but with a ton of power. And these things happen way up high, at the top of storm clouds, where the electrical forces are just insane. At first, scientists thought, well, maybe these blue flashes, which are technically called corona discharges, maybe they're just like static electricity from regular lightning. But studying them, it was like trying to peek through a thick fog, except the fog is a massive storm cloud. Plus, there's this thing called Rayleigh scattering, which basically means blue light gets scattered really easily in the atmosphere. It's kind of like when you shine a blue laser pointer through a smoky room. The beam gets all diffused and hard to see. But these researchers were determined to crack the code. Get this. They actually use a ground-based lightning detection system to study these NBEs during a typhoon. Talk about hardcore science. I'd be braving some serious weather to get this data. And what they found totally changed what we thought we knew. Okay, so here's where things get interesting. They discovered this polarity competition happening at the very top of these storm clouds. And it all comes down to whether the air in the cloud is moving up or down, what scientists call convection. Get ready for this.
So there are actually two distinct types of NBEs, positive and negative, kind of like two sides of the same coin, coming from different parts of the storm cloud. What the researchers found was positive NBEs. They tend to happen when the air is rushing upwards in the cloud, what we call an updraft. But when the air starts flowing down, creating a downdraft, that's when we see more of the negative NBEs. It's almost like the storm cloud is having this internal battle of electrical charges.
Wait, so you're saying the direction the air moves inside the cloud actually determines what kind of blue flash we see? That's crazy.
It is, and it goes even deeper than that. The research actually showed that the strength of the updraft or downdraft, it actually determines how high these charged layers within the cloud form. And guess what? That directly impacts where and when those blue flashes show up. It's like a whole new way of understanding these events.
Okay, so let me make sure I've got this right. We've got these blue flashes, or corona discharges, happening way up high. They're directly connected to these super fast bursts of energy called NBEs. And now we know that the direction and the strength of the air movement within the cloud, those are like the major factors controlling this whole process.
Okay.
But here's the thing. This isn't just some cool science fact. It has real consequences. We're talking potential impacts on a global scale. Because these blue flashes, they're not just a light show. They actually mess with the levels of certain gases in the stratosphere. You know, that layer of the atmosphere above where most of our weather happens, these gases, like nitrogen oxides and ozone, they play a huge role in the Earth's radiation balance. That means they control how much heat our planet absorbs from the sun and how much it radiates back out into space. And that's tied directly to climate change.
Exactly. When you look at the bigger picture, these blue flashes, powered by those NBEs, they're like active players in this massive system that is Earth's atmosphere. It's like realizing that something seemingly small and distant can actually have a huge effect on something as big as our climate. And the really cool thing is, this research is just the beginning. There's so much more to discover about these blue flashes and how they affect our planet.
So we've gone from what is blue lightning to, whoa, this could be affecting our climate. That's pretty wild for one episode, wouldn't you say? But before we get ahead of ourselves, we'll unpack all of that more in part 2. For now, just let that sink in for a bit. Those tiny blue flashes happening miles above our heads could be part of this much bigger climate puzzle. It just shows you how everything's connected in nature. Stick around, because when we come back, we're going to take you behind the scenes and show you how scientists are using some seriously cool tech to study these fleeting events. It's like CSI, but for the atmosphere. We'll see you in part 2. All right, so we're back, and we know now that these blue lightning flashes, powered by those crazy fast NBEs, are way more than just a pretty light show. They could actually be affecting our climate. But now I gotta know, how in the world do scientists even study something that happens so fast and so high up? It's not like they can just climb to the top of a thunderstorm with a camera right away.
Yeah, that's not exactly an easy feat, getting a front row seat to a thunderstorm's light show, especially when it's happening miles above us. But luckily, scientists have come up with some pretty ingenious tools.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me they've got some kind of super-powered telescope that can see through clouds. What's the secret weapon?
Actually, one of their most powerful tools is something we talked about earlier, the lightning detection system. These systems are like giant ears, listening for the radio waves that lightning gives off.
They're eavesdropping on the storm's electrical conversations. Sneaky.
Exactly. Think of it like a giant web spread out over a region, constantly picking up on these faint electrical signals from storms. And these systems are super sensitive. They can pick up signals from storms hundreds of miles away.
Wow, that's impressive. But how do they tell the difference between regular lightning and those NBEs that cause the blue flashes? They both involve electricity, right?
That's a great question. And it all comes down to how scientists can tell apart these different electrical events, you see. Regular lightning and NBEs, they actually have distinct signatures in the radio waves they give off. Because NBEs are so short and intense, they create this very specific spike in the radio wave signal. It's like a fingerprint. That sets them apart from other types of lightning.
So each type of lightning has its own secret code. And the scientists have figured out how to crack it.
Precisely. These lightning detection systems are constantly sifting through all the electromagnetic chatter in the atmosphere, looking for those telltale NBE fingerprints.
Okay, so we've got these high-tech listeners down on the ground, but are there other ways scientists are getting up close and personal with blue lightning?
Definitely. While ground-based detectors give us a broad overview, scientists are also taking to the skies, literally, to get a more direct look at these events.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me they're flying planes into thunderstorms? That sounds kind of dangerous.
Well, not directly into the heart of the storm, where it's the most dangerous, but they do fly specialized aircraft equipped with sensitive instruments above thunderstorms to get a unique vantage point.
Well, that takes some guts. What kind of data are they collecting up there?
These high-altitude flights, they have a whole suite of incredible instruments on board, like high-speed cameras that can capture those blue flashes in action. They also have light detectors that can pick up even the faintest glimmers of these events, and instruments that can measure the electrical fields within the storm clouds.
So they're combining these daredevil aerial observations with the data from the ground-based detectors to get a multi-dimensional view of how blue lightning works. It's like having eyes and ears everywhere.
That's a great way to put it. By combining data from multiple sources, scientists can piece together the complex puzzle of blue lightning. They're learning about the conditions that trigger these events and how they ultimately impact the upper atmosphere.
It's amazing how far science and technology have come. We can study something so elusive and powerful, something that happens miles above us. It makes you realize just how much we've learned about our planet and how much more there's still to discover.
It is humbling, isn't it? And as technology keeps advancing, we can expect even more groundbreaking discoveries in atmospheric science. Who knows what other secrets of the skies we'll be able to unlock in the years to come.
So we've talked about the incredible technology used to study blue lightning. But you mentioned earlier that scientists are also looking at its impact on the upper atmosphere. Can you tell us more about that? How can something so fleeting have such a big impact on the chemistry of the atmosphere miles above the storm?
You see those NBEs, the drivers of blue lightning, they have the power to change the levels of certain gases in a layer of the atmosphere called the stratosphere. That's the layer above where most of our weather happens.
But stratosphere, isn't that where the ozone layer is? The one that protects us from all that harmful radiation from the sun?
That's right. One of the key gases impacted by blue lightning is ozone. And remember, those NBEs, they can both create and destroy ozone, depending on the conditions. So understanding their impact is really important for predicting how the ozone layer might change in the future.
So these tiny blue flashes could be playing a role in the health of the ozone layer. That's huge. But you mentioned other gases too, right? What are those? And what role do they play in this whole atmospheric drama?
Another important group of gases affected by blue lightning are nitrogen oxides, often shortened to NACs. These gases are kind of a mixed bag.
A mixed bag. Like a superhero and a villain all rolled into one.
Exactly. On the one hand, they can contribute to things like air pollution and acid rain. But on the other hand, they can also influence the formation of clouds and play a role in the complex chemistry of the atmosphere.
So it's like these blue lightning flashes. Even though they're so short-lived, they can have this ripple effect throughout the atmosphere, impacting everything from ozone levels to cloud formation. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And to be honest, we're still just scratching the surface of understanding their full impact. The study of blue lightning and its atmospheric consequences is a relatively new field.
So there's still so much we don't know, but the pieces are starting to fall into place. We're beginning to see how these blue flashes fit into the bigger picture of Earth's climate system.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this research so exciting. There's so much more to learn, so many unanswered questions.
Speaking of unanswered questions, I'm curious, what are some of the biggest mysteries scientists are still trying to figure out? What are the next big frontiers of research when it comes to blue lightning?
That's a fantastic question, and it's the perfect segue to the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore those lingering mysteries and the exciting research avenues that lie ahead.
You heard it here first, folks. We're about to venture even deeper into the world of blue lightning, where mysteries still abound and new discoveries await. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our blue lightning deep dive. We've gone from what is blue lightning to, whoa, this could be messing with our climate. And we've even seen how scientists are studying these crazy flashes. But now, it's time to tackle the big unknowns, the mysteries that still have scientists scratching their heads. So spill the secrets. What are those burning questions about blue lightning, the ones that keep scientists up at night?
Well, one of the biggest puzzles is figuring out exactly what triggers those NBEs. You know, those ultra-fast energy bursts that create blue lightning? We know they're connected to those super strong electric fields and storm clouds, but the exact steps that lead to their formation, that's still a bit of a mystery.
So it's like we have all the puzzle pieces, but we haven't figured out how to put them together yet.
Exactly. We know the what, but not the how. We can see them, we can measure them, but what actually sets them off? That's still up for debate.
Ooh, a scientific debate. So what are some of the leading theories? What are the prime suspects in this case?
Well, there are a few interesting possibilities. Some scientists think cosmic rays might be involved, you know, those high-energy particles that bombard Earth from space. Imagine these cosmic rays zooming through the atmosphere and setting off a chain reaction inside the storm cloud, leading to an NBE.
So it's like a tiny cosmic bullet causing a massive electrical explosion.
It is pretty wild. And there's another theory that focuses on what's happening inside the storm cloud, like the movement of ice crystals and water droplets. Some scientists believe that when these particles collide in those turbulent conditions, it could generate the electrical charges needed to trigger an NBE.
So it's like a microscopic mosh pit of ice and water creating this electrical frenzy.
Exactly. And the exciting thing is that scientists are using all sorts of tools to test these theories. They're building computer simulations to model storm clouds. They're even trying to recreate those extreme conditions in the lab. And of course, they're gathering more and more data from those high-altitude flights and ground-based detectors.
It's like they're building a three-dimensional map of blue lightning, piecing together information from all angles. But besides just figuring out how NBEs form, are there other big questions scientists are trying to answer?
Absolutely. Remember, blue lightning isn't just happening on its own. It's part of a much larger system, Earth's atmosphere and climate. So scientists are also trying to understand how it affects those systems.
So those blue flashes, triggered by NBEs, could be influencing our climate in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
Exactly. For example, they're looking at how changes in ozone levels caused by blue lightning might impact climate patterns, not just locally, but potentially on a global scale. They're also investigating how blue lightning might contribute to the formation of those high-altitude clouds, the ones that can both warm and cool the planet.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
These tiny blue flashes happening miles above us could be setting off a chain reaction that affects the climate of our entire planet.
It really shows how interconnected everything is in the Earth system and how important it is to keep studying these events, even if they seem small and fleeting, to understand their bigger impact.
So as we wrap up our blue lightning deep dive, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any key takeaways or final thoughts?
I hope our listeners come away from this with a sense of wonder and a curiosity about the natural world. Blue lightning reminds us that there's still so much to discover, even in something as familiar as a thunderstorm. And I hope they'll appreciate the work of the scientists who are pushing the boundaries of knowledge. It takes real passion to study something as elusive as blue lightning.
Couldn't agree more. It's been an incredible journey exploring this with you. And to our listeners, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never lose your thirst for knowledge. The universe is full of amazing things waiting to be discovered. Who knows what mysteries we'll unravel next time on The Deep Dive?